An important medical headline. Health officials just announced the concerning rise of STIs across the country, and experts say the rates show no sign of slowing down.
So let's bring in Dr. Darian again and break this down for us. What do we need to know about this public health issue?
Well, unfortunately, it's something that I deal with commonly as an emergency physician, talking about sexually transmitted infections. In the past couple of days to months, we've seen increases specifically related before and after the pandemic. Recently, the CDC released reports that rates of chlamydia, gonorrhea, and syphilis have accelerated in terms of the amounts of positive tests that we're finding, and it's been the highest that we've seen in over 20 years. And so that's really concerning, and just a movement to get more people to get tested and to become aware of these infections that we need to control.
You mentioned the rising rate after the pandemic, people back out there again and interacting with people. What's driving up these rates?
You know, I think it's a couple of things. It's multifactorial, probably. First and foremost, inadequate education. Many don't realize that most often these infections come with no symptoms at all. Also, obviously, decreased use of protection. Many people are simply forgetting about the existence of these pathogens and infections and often interacting with others without the idea or understanding that they're at risk. And then also decreased testing. Again, most of these are asymptomatic. So if you don't get regular testing, you're likely to transmit unknowingly to another person.
Let's talk about the testing and the treatment. What can people do?
So I would always recommend to get testing, depending on how active you are. I would recommend getting testing at least twice a year. And then there's also new research on the use of something called post-exposure prophylaxis with antibiotics. They've used medications like doxycycline, a common antibiotic, and it's found to be effective in preventing their transmission if you take it after a high-risk exposure.
Interesting information there. Dr. Darian, thank you so much.
Eyes around the nation and here in Georgia. Our state is now seeing the highest rates in certain diseases in a decade. NewsEdge reporter Christopher King tells us why and what doctors say we can do to stop the spread.
Our state is among the leaders in the spike in sexually transmitted infections. Doctors and healthcare advocates worry Georgians are letting their guards down.
We are seeing numbers surge.
The trend, undesirable, yet undeniable.
We do see a 10% positivity rate in STIs per month.
Sexually transmitted infections are surging around the nation and right here in our state.
It's very disturbing.
The Georgia Department of Health Services reports sexually transmitted diseases climbed to their highest levels in a decade. Infections like gonorrhea and syphilis rose 17% in 2021 from the year earlier. 60% from 10 years prior.
With the pandemic and people having more downtime, there may be more activity among intimate partners.
Dwayne Ford is the director of HIV prevention services with AID Atlanta. He says there are a number of reasons for the spike.
People being a little cavalier, maybe relaxing themselves and not taking as many precautions as they normally would. There's a lack of condom usage. There's a lack of communication among partners about the status.
There just seems to be a lot less inhibition out there across the board.
Dr. Cecil Bennett is an infectious disease expert. He says too many people are just not practicing safe sex.
After COVID and being locked up for 2 years, people just want to be free of any restriction, and unfortunately that includes condom use.
Experts say Georgia needs to improve sex education.
The most important thing, again, is to get information to as many people as possible, especially in underserved communities where we have less access to health care.
Healthcare professionals urge you to practice safe sex. Be honest with yourself and your partner. And if you suspect you have a sexually transmitted infection, go see your doctor. Christopher King, Fox 5 News.
Staying on health news tonight, Alabama is experiencing a spike in new HIV cases, and the heterosexual community is seeing the brunt of this. Data from the Alabama Department of Public Health shows a 60% jump in cases at the end of last year. WAFF 48's Romario Gardner is live at Big Spring Park tonight. Romario, a doctor you spoke with says people need to go back to the basics.
Margaret, he says people just aren't asking their partners the right questions. And some parents that I spoke with today say they're having that exact same conversation with their children.
I tell them, just like I've told them all their lives, wrap it up.
Those are the words of wisdom Janet Baker tells her 2 adult sons when it comes to staying safe in a world where online dating is commonplace. The Alabama Department of Public Health reported 441 new cases of HIV in the last 3 months of 2022. The 3 months before that, there were only 263. Baker says that news is terrifying to hear, and she worries for her sons and the younger generation.
They're experimenting. They're trying to feel their way out and not necessarily knowing what they like.
According to HIV.gov, the infection is still most common among gay and bisexual men, but ADPH medical officer Dr. Wes Stubblefield says other groups need to stay cautious.
Nationwide, we've seen a disturbing increase, especially in the number of young heterosexual females that are being diagnosed with HIV. These are new diagnoses.
There was a 60% increase in infections among heterosexuals last year. Dr. Stubblefield says people need to start talking.
The best prevention is for people to know their status and for people to know the status of their partners.
Something Baker stresses to her own adult children.
Ask questions and ask them early. Don't wait till, afterwards and say, oh, oops. Have you or did?
Shalom, shalom, shalom. All praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, which is to say in the Paleo-Hebrew, Yahweh, which is the name of our Heavenly Father, meaning He is, Bahashem, meaning in the name, Yahweh Shai, meaning He is our salvation, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus a so-called black man. Judgment, judgment, judgment. And as you can see from the couple of videos I put together as one, you see that the rise of these STDs is, on the rise, and it's prevalent in our community, the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. Because why? We were entrusted with this law, statute, commandments, and judgment, and we fell short. And now, because of that, we have to deal with the judgments, okay? And one of these judgments is the pestilence, okay? And you see in the rise, especially with this new culture that's being cultivated here in America, predominantly, online dating and what have you, and not just the internet, but, the entertainment world as well. They pushing out that vibration, sleep with whoever you want to sleep with without having to worry about any repercussions, girl on girl, boy on boy, all this has to, come to an end, okay? And this is the judgment that's being played out. And you're going to see more and more cases, like this rise as we get closer to the end, okay? So here in Babylon, where you're free to do whatever you want to do and don't have to worry about the repercussions, you can have, intercourse with the same, the same person, the same sex, okay? And it's not frowned upon, okay? And better yet, it's rewarded, okay? You can, be rewarded by doing that. You can have a so-called marriage here in Babylon, the land of confusion, and have what you would consider a normal life in a land of confusion, okay? But there comes a consequence with that. You're going to see these judgments, and one of them being the pestilence, okay? These STDs, sexual transmitted disease, STI, and, you're going to see new and more deadly viruses as we get closer to the end, okay? And this is all part of judgment. Okay, because we're not supposed to be defiling our temple, pursuant to 2 Corinthians 3:16. Okay, and when you go and you lay down with the same, gender, you're defiling your temple because it wasn't made for that. Okay, a woman with a woman and a man with a man, no. And then you have your physicians that's telling you to wrap it up when that's not the underlying cause. The underlying cause is because you are sinning and going against the word of the Most High. He have allowed this pestilence and these pestilence to rise, for judgment, okay? And this is Ezekiel 5:11. It says, "Wherefore, as I live, saith the Lord Almighty, surely because thou hast defiled my sanctuary, with all thy detestable things and with all thy abominations, therefore will I also diminish thee. Neither shall my eye spare, neither will I have pity. And he's not going to have pity on you because you defile his sanctuary. Okay? And your sanctuary, his sanctuary is the temple that he gave to you, your body. And when you go out and about and you do these things that's not conducive to what the word says, then you allowing yourself to be open up for these judgments. Okay? And one being the pestilence. And that's why you're seeing the rise of these viruses, because now you're free to do as you please. Okay? With the internet, you can hook up and, you don't know what that person who hooked up before you hooked up with, prior to meeting you, okay? And in the land of Babylon, which is America, the land of confusion, you are allowed to do whatever you want to do. There's no repercussions, there's no consequences, there's no accountability for your actions, okay? So this is the outcome. You get rise, and you see the rise of these pestilence, predominantly in our community, so-called blacks, Latinos, and the Native Americans, because we don't have no direction on what we can and what we can't do. We just been told here in Babylon that, it's all good, basically. Okay? Let's go there and get that in 2 Corinthians 3. Second Corinthians might be Slakia. It's not 2 Corinthians 3:16, it's 1 Corinthians 3:16. And it reads, know ye not that ye are the temple of the Most High? So you are the sanctuary of the Most High, and that the Spirit of the Most High dwelleth in you? If any man defile the temple of the Most High, him shall the Most High destroy. For the temple of the Most High is holy, which temple ye are. So when you go about and you sleep with the same gender, you're defiling the temple of the Most High, his sanctuary, which is holy. That's where the Spirit's supposed to dwell in. And when you go out and you do these abominable, detestable things, you defile the temple. And now you're setting yourself up for judgment. Okay? And in this younger generation who don't have any type of direction, who are being led by the entertainment, by the television, by social media, they don't know what's going on. Okay, so they set themselves up for all type of judgments. Okay, and by the time they find out, it's too late. They already have the scars to prove it. Okay, they have these STDs. Okay. There's no direction. It tells us in Proverbs it's not Proverbs, it's this is Proverbs 29 in verse 18. It says, where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keepeth the law, happy is he. And that's why you see the woman in the last video, she like, only thing I can say is, talk about it, because there's no vision. Okay? And where there's no vision, the people perish. Okay? These physicians, they can't tell you. The only thing they can say is wrap it up. They can't tell you what's really the underlying cause behind these rises in these, pestilence, these STDs. Okay? It's because there's no vision, there's no law. The law of the land has not been, upheld. In this land where you can do whatever you want to do, there's no consequence that you have to pay. Okay? And this younger generation, they don't have a vision, they don't know what's going on. Okay? So they just being guided by the what? The television, the social media, the entertainment, these idols that's propped up before them, that's pushing this, I can sleep whoever I want to sleep with and don't have to worry about the consequences. No, you're not supposed to sleep with the same gender. And furthermore, once you sleep with that person, that's who you're supposed to be with. Okay, that's what marriage truly is. When the man go into the woman, that solidifies the marriage. Okay, and speaking of when the hymen is broken, okay, that's known as the tokens of virginity. When you take that young maiden virginity, that's your wife, that's your marriage. In today's culture, you don't have that. Okay, the females, they sleep with whoever they want. The males, they don't care as long as they can get theirs, and then they go on to the next. Okay, no, when you go into that young maiden, you're supposed to be with her. Okay, but here in Babylon, hookup culture, you don't have to worry about the consequences or being held accountable for your decisions. Okay, and that's what we've been taught coming up through what? Through the entertainment such as what? The rap songs, the people who they put as for us to look as idols, that's what they promote in their lyrics. There's no accountability. Okay, so now you have to worry about the judgment, which is part of the judgment that Yahweh sent, is that pestilence. Okay, so yeah, when you go into that woman and you take her virginity, that's your wife. That's what marriage is, not a piece of paper that you go down to Esau court and he give you, and now you say you've been married to this woman who's already been ran through. That's not what marriage is. Okay, so yeah, if you do things decently in order, you can have more than one wife. But is it smart in the day's time that we living in? If you can't afford it, to bring on more burdens? No. So you have to be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove and know exactly what time you in. Okay, this is our captivity. We don't have the freedom to move about as we would if we were in our own homeland, abiding under our own laws. Okay, so this is the culture that Esau allowed to cultivate within our neighborhoods, that hookup culture, that no accountability to be held, that you can do whatever you want to do. And this is the outcome of that. You see in these rises of these pestilence, more and more prevalent in the so-called Black, Latinos, and Native American communities. Okay, so this is back to Proverbs 29 and 18. It says, where there is no vision, the people perish, but he that keepeth the law, happy is he. Okay, because you can avoid these run-ins with these different types of pestilence. Okay, when you know not to sleep with the same gender, you know that you remove yourself from being part of that equation. Okay, so everything happens for a reason. Back to Ezekiel 5, because it may be the reason you've been put to the side and not being able to be part of this hookup culture, is because there might be more and more dangers that's out there. And by the word, you keeping these laws, statutes, commandments, and judgments to the best of your ability, he's keeping you from that possibility of being put out there with the hookup culture, and you being what? Able to partake in this and have to go along with the judgments as well. Okay? So this is back in Ezekiel 5 and picking up right around where we left off at. Where it says, we read 11, wherefore as I live, saith the Lord power, surely because thou hast defiled my sanctuary with all thy detestable things. We read that in 1 Corinthians 3 and 16. And with all thy abominations, therefore will I also diminish thee. Neither shall my eye spare, neither will I have any pity. Verse 12, a third part of thee shall die with the pestilence. Okay? That's the diseases. Okay? That's what you saw in the videos that I put together to start the video off, to start this lesson off with. And with famine shall they be consumed in the midst of thee, and a third part shall fall by the sword round about thee. And I will scatter a third part into all the winds, and I will draw out a sword after them. Thus shall my anger be accomplished, and I will cause my fury to rest upon them, and I will be comfort, and they shall know that I, Yahweh, have spoken it in my zeal, when I have accomplished my fury in them. Moreover, I will make thee waste and a reproach among the nations that are round about thee, in the sight of all that pass by. And that's how the other nations look at us. When they see us, with our pants down, they see our demeanor, and they see how far we have fallen off. They look at us with that disdain look, and that's all part of prophecy. It says 15, so it shall be a reproach and a taunt and an instruction and an astonishment unto the nations that are round about thee, when I shall execute judgment in thee in anger and in fury and in furious rebukes. I, Yahweh, have spoken it. When I shall send upon them the evil arrows of famine, which shall be for their destruction, and which I will send to destroy you. And I will increase the famine upon you, and will break your staff of bread. So yeah, that's going to be a time where it's going to be wild out here, where we're not going to be able to even afford our, daily bread, Speaking of how we, survive and how we get our, food, our water, our raiment. 17 says, so will I send upon you famine and evil beasts, and they shall bereave thee, and pestilence and blood shall pass through thee, and I will bring the sword upon thee. I, Yahweh, have spoken it. And we know eventually that sword that he's going to bring on us is going to be to those 2/3 is going to be by the way of those ICBM missiles here in Babylon the Great, which is going to destroy the whole land. Okay? So not going to make it too long. We're going to go ahead and close out in 1 Peter 5 and 8. And reading 1 Peter 5 and 8, it says, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. So if he can perpetuate this hookup culture, this not to be held accountable through his media, through his, entertainment, he's going to continue to do that, and he don't care about the, the outcome, okay? Because his whole thing is to destroy you. So if he can have you to sin and to put yourself in harm's way and to be part of that judgment and to get those pestilence, then by all means necessary, he's going to do what he has to do. So that's why it's our job to be sober and be vigilant. And that's what you get with this truth, this word. It keeps you sober and vigilant, okay? So hopefully someone was able to get something from that, and until the next time, if it be the Lord's will, stay strong, stay in the faith. We almost home. Shalom.